Just did a little bit in the garden today, not very much. It's really hot and I'm recovering from the farmer's market yesterday. But I did string up all of our tomatoes. Well, sort of. I still need, they did arrive, I just haven't gotten it yet. A couple of the spools left, but what I did is I pruned and I put the top clips up here for the tomatoes before the storms hit again. And you can see the tomatoes are coming in all right. So these are Rutgers, Cherokee Carbon, Big Beef are the main ones. And then the zinnias are looking really good inside here. So I'll do a deep first cut, which will allow them basically to grow longer stems in the middle. They're doing great. We have a bunch of volunteers. These look like they're probably the Torahina, the yellow cherries from last year. I pruned out some of them, but I didn't prune all of them. But they've all really recovered nicely from the frost. You can tell the ones that I had to completely replace are much smaller than the ones that actually got hit by frost. So, pretty excited. Also, there's a gap in alyssum on this back corner. I need to plant my basil here. It did really well last year. So I was planning on planting more late season basil right there. But the alyssum looks really nice along the border there. I have a feeling we'll be swimming in tomatoes before I know it. They are a little bit late this year, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with them considering the weather. And I haven't seen any, knock on wood, but I haven't seen any of the blossom end rot. So I did water on these couple of hot days. We finally had 3 days without more than a quarter inch of rain, which was great. I think you can see the ones I need to deal with in the hoop house too. But because of the water, because of the amount of rain they're used to, I have continued to put the irrigation on in order to kind of let them not go to a stress mode. So that's weird because it's like, oh, they must be really, really good. But having a raised bed does allow them to drain a little bit better than if they were in ground. And you want to keep them consistent as much as possible with watering. The flower bed here has really started to overgrow. Got the couple Lizzies here, Cosmos, the stock. Stock's a little short. I did plant this late, and now that we've had some 90-degree days, definitely noticing the short flowers. They should be much taller. But that's part of it, right? Snaps are doing all right in here. The marigolds, the giant marigolds, are finally coming in as well. And some straw flowers are coming in, which is exciting. Can't wait for these to open. I had the first straw flowers over in the other gardens open. And then we have some feverfew. And it looks like I must have some type of aphids or something in here. I'm not seeing anything. I'm just seeing ants. I will have to come back and look at that later. But the ants are all over this cosmos. It's usually an indicator that they are trying to foster aphids. I read an article the other day about ants pulling the eggs of the aphids down into their dens in the winter and then pulling them back out and placing them on plants so they could farm them. So I thought that was really interesting. I am not seeing any aphids, but I might have to get a microscope out, see if there's eggs. They are posting up on their stations. The mums are doing really well. As you can tell, they've grown a ton in just a few weeks. And our fall asters should be here on Monday. I'm a little nervous. The shipping got delayed. They were supposed to be delivered on Friday, so that means that they are just sitting in a warehouse somewhere in a shipping warehouse while they wait to be transported the rest of the way. This whiskey barrel's doing pretty good. I've already cut some cosmos out of here. There's status, and the delphinium is budding really nicely. And over here, these are the snaps that I never got to move, but I did put 2 large dahlias in there. I do need to fertilize this bed. I never fertilized it at the beginning of the season. This bed is also cut flowers mostly. Got the onions around the edges. Their giant marigolds are definitely here and doing well. I've got some of the snaps that I did move out of that whiskey barrel, but they are kind of small, which is a bummer. I was really hoping that they'd be bigger. So that's, I don't know if you guys watched earlier, but early in the season we had an issue where our little pop-up greenhouse had a big gust of wind. It didn't blow away or anything, but it knocked all the trays of snaps off its shelves. So I saved what I could and put those out into the field garden, but I didn't have as many as I was planning, so I took the ones that self-seeded from the whiskey barrel last year and transplanted some in here. The stock in this bed is definitely getting a little bit more bug damage. They are a Nebraska family, so that's not uncommon with stock, and again, they're a little late. But these buds are just starting to show, and these will probably be short too. Not much I can do about that, but these are kind of a one and done, so once they bloom and I cut them, I pull them, and then I'll have this whole bed space for fall planting. We've got onions. I did, if you watched the farmer's market video, I did harvest a bunch of onions. We've been eating them, and as we cook dinner, coming in and grabbing them. I am having an issue with onion worms, I think they're called. I can't remember the name. They're like little mini caterpillar-y things. Not great. They're eating the greens. I need to get beneficial nematodes, are supposedly a really good help for that. But at this stage, I'm not sure what will help. So if you have any suggestions, I am all ears. I got to do some research this week and figure out a healthy way to get them before they get to that next stage where they actually will go in and eat the center of the onion. So don't want that happening. This bed is onions and lisianthus, and then some dill. So some of the lizzies are starting to bud, which is very, very exciting. These ones are nice and tall. The other plugs that I got are starting to bud too, and they're really short. And I'm thinking it's because of the heat that we've had. So that's just a bad year. No, there's a hole for something. So probably grubs of some sort too. So not happy with that. It's gonna a little bit of our, garden fails sprinkled in, but into this garden tour. But I want to be as real as possible. I also need to fertilize, which you can tell some of these lizzies are not happy. Still need some work on these. Let's put it that way. Over in this bed, it's a little bit of a half and half bed. I do have parsley, which I let the swallowtail caterpillars munch on quite a bit. I've got some status, it's just starting here. I've got a couple peppers that are saying that they need nutrients. And if you can see here, it's a nice little picnic pepper. The feverfew, this is my second or third planting of feverfew. So still lightly budded. Marigolds are doing pretty well. I've got snapdragons on the other side there that are pretty close to be ready for cuts. And onions in here, these are Patterson as well, are doing really well. And you can see I've been pulling some of those. And I've been picking the lettuce from in here also, and some of the kale. This bed is the bed I harvested all the carrots out of. So I left a few for the swallowtails and some of them. And I also had a few that were still really small. I've got the younger onions around the edge here. And this is a mix of poblanos, guajillos, What else? Oh, jalapenos and, oh, that's California Wonder back there. Thai chilies and serrano maybe, if I remember correctly. And then marigolds here. So this bed, I need to plant that back half still. I still haven't dealt with the potato bed. I think I'm gonna do a whole bed of carrots in this one. We showed you the whiskey barrels already. Over here, this bed is mostly cayenne peppers, but there are a few other shishitos, which are like pepperoncinis, basil, snapdragons, I think some extra picnic peppers are sprinkled in here, and maybe jalapenos. So still, again, border of onions, doing all right. My spinach bed, still haven't dealt with this one. You guys can tell how behind I am this year. Definitely not ideal, but with thunderstorms almost every day, or 90 degrees, it's really hard to plant anything in those conditions. So onions around our bell pepper bed. Most of these are 8-in-1 Birdies beds. I didn't mention that earlier, except for those back two that are 9-in-1s. The short ones are also 8-in-1s. And the tomato bed is, there's 4 Birdies beds put together, making it a, I think, 27-foot bed. So these are our bell peppers. These are way behind last year's. At this point, I had peppers I could actually pick pretty close. It would have been a little small, but with the temperatures and the weather, and not much heat and then crazy heat, nothing in between, and a month of full rain. I think there was a week we had 3.5 inches of rain in like, it was like 4 days. So these guys need some warmth. So that's coming. I do need to get in here and prune. I like to prune our bell peppers quite a bit, as well as all the other extra peppers, and that helps me keep production good and airflow really good underneath here. Lettuce bed is still on the changeover, so I need to come in and add some more compost. I have some baby lettuce started that I need to transplant, so I'll dig those up, add the compost, and then plant them back in. I do have some short day broccoli, not short day, sorry, I always say that, short days to maturity, DTM, broccoli. So I need to cover these though, because they will get completely eaten if they haven't already. I'm a little late covering those. I've got some status and marigolds in this bed. I did throw some carrots in here. I have a little toad that was running away. I'll show you guys him in a second probably. And then I'm gonna, I think, cover this. I'm going back and forth between an Ag 15, which is basically a bug cloth, but it does offer some shade, or a shade cloth, which I have is, I think I did 40%. So we'll see on that. Oh, he was dug in over there. Sweet potatoes are really actually blew up in just the last few days, as we've had like 3 days of 90. They loved it. So I do need to water those a lot more. Here, I'll show you guys the toad. Is a gardener's best friend right there. So I will let him be. So this bed over here is our potato bed, and as you can tell, the greens are starting to die back. The flowers have kind of come and gone, and bugs are definitely all over here. I hate these bugs. They are so disgusting. That's the larva stage. But as you can see, they fall over. That's a sign where I am getting close to being ready to harvest these, and then I'll have this bed to deal with as well. And because of the larva issues and things like that, these will go over the bank, not into our compost. Over here, all but one of the dahlias has come up, and they are looking pretty healthy. It's this one right here. I'm not sure what the deal is there. I did transplant out some more snaps, cosmos, zinnias, that I had extra over here on this berm, and then I planted a bunch of seed because of all the rain, but I'm not seeing any new growth really. So I'm guessing at this point the seed did not take, which is really unfortunate. So not so happy about that. I have had, you can kind of see some footprint stuff there here and a bunch over there. I've had something crawling all over this as well, which may be half my problem on that. In the wildflower section area, the Rudbeckia is coming in really nicely. You can see some really nice pops of yellow, as well as the yarrow. And I did a huge pick. If you watched the farmer's market video, you would have seen. I did about 10 buckets worth of flowers yesterday. And got to really have a great time at the Westminster Farmers Market and sold a ton of flowers, which was great. It was really, really awesome and really, really happy. I'm on cloud 9 still from that. Over here on our tunnel bed, these are 2 of the Birdies tall 8-in-1s put together on each side, so 4 beds total. And I think this is close to 17 feet, I think. 16 feet, somewhere around there. It's 4 cattle panels, but they are overlapping. And there's extra space on the ends. Onions are doing pretty well on the ends here. These are a shallot, a large like shallot-shaped purple red onion. I've got zinnias that are doing well, and I just picked a ton of peas. So here's what I have for peas. This is a half bushel, so maybe, an 1/8 of a bushel, I guess. Hard to tell. Zinnias, you can see here, are really starting to come up, and I did pick a bunch yesterday. Let's see if I can get the focus for you. There you go. So these are all different colors along here. The zowies actually were the first to bloom, which I was really surprised by and curious about it. First time growing those, so I'm not sure. But dill is coming in really well. I need to harvest a bunch so I can dry it. And then the basil with the heat are really loving it. Basil does really well with really high heat and lots of water, but not wet soil, so they like to dry. So having them in these tall skinny beds, they do really, really great. Beans are climbing really well, and I've got some squash in here too, pumpkins and cucumbers, I think. I don't think I did watermelon over here this year, but I can't remember. I have to look back. And you can see that some of these peas are getting really, really tall at this point. You can see there's quite a bit left on here that I'll harvest in another couple days. Sweet peas, I've already been harvesting. They smell amazing, just as good as you would expect them to. Really fun colors and nice mix from Johnny Seeds. Giant marigolds I've budded. And beets, I keep picking them and thinning them out and selling them at the markets, and they're doing fine. Definitely getting a little crowded from the sweet peas, but overall I would say it's been fine to plant underneath them. This only gets afternoons, midday to afternoon sun. Here's one of the squashes. That one looks like it might be a pumpkin. So I'll be watching for squash, vine borers, statice, snapdragons, onions, basil, all kind of sprinkled in here. This was where some of the ranunculus were. Oh, and dill again. I kind of put dill everywhere. So I think that's most of the raised bed garden area. I do have some tansy, which is some filler that's growing over there that's about to bud. I do Queen Anne's lace, the field daisies, wild daisies, pennycress, vetch, and a bunch of stuff for filler. So that's what we got going on over here. So there's, some wins, some fails, like every year. And you never know what type of year it's going to be with the weather or some bugs or whatever's going to hit. So doing our best to be able to adjust on the fly and keep up with all of the changes that are happening. for I think we're close to mid-July, maybe July 8th today. I think Jason and I actually hit 17 years yesterday. He made me a chocolate cake. It was amazing. So as we're going through, like I said, we're definitely late due to the weather on tomatoes ripening and things like that, but they're coming. And when they do, it looks like I'm gonna have probably 5-10 pounds of ripe right off the bat together. And I start making our sauce every 5 pounds. Sauce and salsas, doing 5-pound batches early in the season helps me not have to do huge amounts later in the year. Makes it a little bit more manageable. We put away about 200 to 250 pounds worth of tomatoes by canning. As you can see, the gardens are doing really good over there, and the garlic bed I still have to weed, and then I can get back to that and plant that. Due to the weather, I haven't been able to plant these Lizzies, which is not good. And so I've got to figure these out this week. Either transplant them into pots and things like that, or find them at home and cover them if the storms are going to be too bad. I've got shade cloth to use if I put them out in the field, so hopefully that will allow me to have good fall height. I also am planning on putting some in here, and I have some more cucumbers to plant for late season cucumbers in here, and I need to string up a bunch more of the tomatoes and the cucumbers. This bed also is about to get turned over for the most part. The center part, or the back feverfew there, I picked a ton of that. So as soon as I pick the rest of that whole back section will go. This section, this feverfew is about ready. And this whole area was ranunculus. Those need to get pulled out, the corms. And then that will actually become some of these Lizzies. And we had planned on trying to make another bed here in this front area. I'm not sure that's going to happen right off. But we can adjust as needed. Too many projects all at once, right? So I'm gonna get back inside before the storm actually hits, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the garden tour today. And I will still need to do the full garden tour. I will do the cut flower beds and the corn and sunflowers in the perennial bed as a second part, hopefully tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful week. And I would love to know how your gardens are growing, what you're having success at, what your garden fails this year, because we can all learn from each other. Happy gardening.